What's going on, Steelers Nation? Today in the film room, we're going to be taking a look at former LA Ram Ben Skowronek, who is a wide receiver by trade, but actually think of him as more of like a quasi H-back or chess piece for an offense. Got waived by the Texans after trading for him in the preseason, but he's currently signed to the Steelers practice squad. If I had to bet, this is a guy who I think will be elevated sooner rather than later. Really interesting player, just the way that the Rams used him and the way that I could see him fitting into this system. I'm excited to show you guys why. Just before we get started, if you like my content, please make sure you like, subscribe, and drop me a comment on this video. It helps the channel grow. And also, if you're looking for even more content from me, consider becoming a channel member. You get early access to videos such as this, also exclusive film rooms, all 22 cut-ups throughout the season. Let's lock in. Here we go. So Ben Skowronek, he's listed as a wide receiver by designation, but his receiving ability isn't the purpose behind me necessarily making this video or my excitement about this kind of signing. But I don't want to totally dismiss like his receiving ability and some of the things that he does particularly well. Saw that first catch on the deep dig over the middle. Right here, he's working at the foot of the stack. He's going to get to the sticks, turn around, make himself available for Matthew Stafford. He had some really nice flashes as a receiver, just finding the soft spots in zone coverage. This was probably my favorite rep that I saw from him against the Niners. This was 2 years ago when he had like career high receiving numbers in that Rams offense. Even though they didn't have as much team success, he had a pretty good year when he was called upon. Right here, he's working up against DeMondre Lenore. Nice little skip release to close the space between him and his defender. You see the stair step at the top of the route to create some separation on the deep crosser. We know how the Steelers have targeted all these different wide receiver skill sets for Arthur Smith, guys that are really good on crossers, and that's really where he does a lot of his damage, like in between the numbers on deep dig routes, and then underneath, like finding the soft spot in zone and on drag routes to get him able to use some yards after the catch. But Skowronek is an interesting player just because of his size, his physicality. He's a guy who's listed 6'3", like 225, so he's a bigger body dude. And one thing that I really appreciate about his game is like he plays to his size, and I don't think that that's always the case for wide receivers, and I think that that shows up in more areas than one. Here's a really nice example of the Rams going empty right here. They're going to get man coverage. His man is going to have him outside leverage, but what I like about this is he throws his body around and kind of understands to kind of shift his weight at the break point and use his body to create a little bit of separation for an easy throw for Stafford over the middle. Does a nice job falling into the end zone for a touchdown. So now that we went over a little bit of what Skowronek does really well as a receiver, I wanted to get into the real reason that I made this video, just some of the added flexibility and versatility that brings on the offensive end, especially as a blocker. So if you guys follow me on Twitter, you're fans of the channel, you're longtime subscribers, you guys know that I've talked a lot this offseason about Arthur Smith's offense. It's a run-heavy approach, some of the different things that he looks to do on offense. I went over some of the concepts. Here's one of the concepts we went over. Wind back counter. You guys have also probably heard me refer to the Matt Collins role, which was previously the Corey Davis role, which is really just like this big-bodied Z receiver that's a physical blocker, is willing to take on these like really difficult assignments. Right here, they're running wind back counter, so they're going to sell zone to the left side. We've already went over this for the channel, and they're going to loop Skowronek down to the other side and lead him through the hole as the puller. This is something that Smith asked Matt Collins to do a couple different times last year in their wind back variations. I'm still not really 100% sure of who's going to carry out those assignments in this offense. And, they asked Skowronek to do a lot of different stuff over the past 2 years. Like as a puller, here they're running like quarterback, GY. He's basically a pseudo tight end in this formation, but they're basically running like GY counter with the quarterback. Here, I mean, this isn't like picture perfect because he dives at this dude's knees, but he at least gives this, by putting his helmet on the inside, he at least gives the quarterback a really defined read for a nice third down pickup. And, it's not always like pretty with Skowronek, but one thing you can guarantee is like he's going to bring effort and physicality. Right here, he's working at the top of the screen. You'll see him from the back angle of this run right here. They're just running like a toss to the perimeter, and he does a really nice job just basically throwing Kaiir Elam out of the screen. I mean, you don't even see the cornerback in the picture here, and this type of just at the point of attack physicality as a blocker really stands out on film, and it's a reason that he was able to get so many snaps on this Rams offense 2 years ago, because they didn't have Puka at this time. They drafted some smaller receivers that weren't capable of doing some of this stuff. Right here, another run to the perimeter. This is basically just outside zone is what it kind of looks like, but they're asking Skowronek to come in here and crack this linebacker. And again, like he has the body type and the physicality at the point of attack to carry out some of these assignments. One of the things a lot of NFL teams are doing right now is they're also like, coming in these tight condensed formations, running a lot of duo. In order to do this, a lot of teams like to do it from like a 2 tight end set, but the Rams are a heavy 11 personnel team. So one of the ways they like to do it is also like kind of condense Skowronek down and have him as kind of the second blocker to set the edge right here. And again, like he's more than capable of like fitting up safeties or even occasionally coming down and fitting up a linebacker and helping your running back gain space. One of the things that I know a lot of people have talked about is like the new wide receivers coach, not only getting Arthur Smith, but also Coach Z in the receiver room. I think they want to bring an attitude of physicality to this team. They're going to be run heavy. They're going to run the ball a ton. So they want their blockers, to be effective on the outside and the perimeter. And that's something Skowronek really brings. Like he has the body type to hold up at the point of attack, but also even though the play's away from him, he also like brings 100% effort no matter what. So like this is a counter play to the opposite side that is probably not supposed to hit where it actually does. But you see Skowronek, he lays a really good block down here on the safety, doesn't jog, he carries out his assignment like he's supposed to. All right, so you're watching this video, you're probably like, why is this dude showing me blocking highlights from a wide receiver? He does even more than that. Like he can actually be a kind of cool chess piece on offense. So one of the ways that the Rams deployed him back in 2022 when he was getting a lot of playing time was actually as a fullback, and it's kind of unique. I wanted to kind of show you guys some examples of him, being a pretty effective blocker at the point of attack, even from the backfield. And one of the reasons I wanted to show this is because the Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith had a fullback on the field for about 16-17% of his offensive plays the last 2 years. They don't actually have a fullback on the roster right now. Jack Coletto is on the practice squad. Who knows if it's going to be Connor Hayward, if it's going to be Michael Pruitt when they want to go to these 2-back looks. But Skowronek can actually do some of these things. Right here, this is one of the staple plays of Arthur Smith's offense. It's just mid-zone to the weak side. You want to usually he will run this out of 2-back. Right here, Skowronek's going to lead through the hole, lay a really good hit on Zaven Collins, who I think gets actually injured on this play. But you can see creating a lot of space there for Cam Akers, springs an explosive play touchdown. Pretty good for a wide receiver. And this wasn't just like a one-off play. I kind of went through and I watched a couple hundred plays probably for this cut up or for this film room specifically. But when I was going through and like just clipping up all the plays of him at fullback, like they were extremely productive when he was back there in the backfield. Right here, again, just another example. He's going to take this safety and just widen him out, pushing towards the sideline. Again, I think that he's, it's one thing to put guys back in the backfield just as like a decoy, but players that can actually go back there and hold their own, I think provide some value. It's a unique wrinkle to the offense. Now, some of the things that the Rams really did that I thought were pretty cool is they were able to create some explosive plays with him in the backfield too. So this is kind of that same play that we saw earlier, the wide zone touchdown, but they're actually going to fake this and run a play action concept out of it. This actually turns into kind of like a flood concept or kind of a sail route from the backfield. And Stafford does a good job layering this thing towards the sideline for a perfect throw in stride. Another explosive play. It's just an easy way to create like chunk yardage. And then one of the things too that I also wanted to bring up is like this type of stuff is the stuff that I feel like Russ and Justin do extremely well, right? They want to push the ball down the field. Arthur Smith wants to run a lot of play action. Their best throws typically tend to be outside the numbers. And like this is a way to get to that, even if you want to play a lot of heavier personnel, like we know Smith's probably going to lean into. So just some cool kind of unique wrinkles for that. Now, I know people are going to look at like, his production in 2022 and he had 300 and something receiving yards. And they're going to say like, well, could he potentially be more than like a wide receiver 5 type or whatever? A lot of his production did come off of these like what I would call like scheme touches. And it's really just like McVay was smart about how they were deploying him. Teams did know, I feel like especially last year, like when he was coming into the game, they ran the ball almost 60% of the time. So he was in there to be a blocker, but you have to come up with some wrinkles, some counters to that counter because teams will start playing you differently. When he's in the game, like certain defensive coordinators may start to play him as a running back or deploy their defensive formations in order to counter that. So what you have to do is you have to design some play action stuff and still throw the ball out of these formations to keep the defense honest. And like you saw some production out of him for that. Like right here against the Cardinals, like he's going to fake this kind of stalk block and then they're going to give it to him over the middle of the field on this deep crosser. Really nice job for him making some nice yards after the catch right here for an explosive play. So there's some things that you're going to need to do in order to like make sure that he's not giving away a huge tell that every time when he's in the game you're going to run the ball. You can't make it that obvious, but I think that that's pretty self-explanatory and stuff that Smith will understand from day one. But really, the reason that Skowronek, beyond like the cool kind of stuff that he can do on offense that I think is like useful, especially for a coordinator like Arthur Smith, who I feel like kind of takes some of these things, some of these outside the box ideas and kind of brings them to life. But the reason why I think he's going to be elevated pretty soon is special teams value. It's not sexy, it's not fun, it doesn't often get shown on a lot of film rooms, not even mine. But I do think it's important. Last year alone, like in 2023, like he had 12 special teams tackles. That was second in the NFL. Only guy who had more was actually Pittsburgh Steelers' own Miles Killebrew, I think, with 13 per Pro Football Focus. So he's a guy who's extremely active on special teams, and that's what I was kind of talking about, like his brand of physicality. He's willing to mix it up, do whatever it takes to like get a helmet on game days. I think that's one of the reasons why the Texans traded for him, just because I think there's a lot of overlap from those like Shanahan adjacent schemes, like Bobby Slowick in Houston. I think they looked at him like all the Texas receivers block really well, Skowronek blocks really well, so I'm sure that was probably something they wanted to get out of him. He just got caught in a numbers crunch. In LA, they drafted just more talented receivers. Like Puka's a better receiver than him, and he can also do the blocking stuff better than he can. And then in Houston, like we've talked about the Houston receiver room on this channel quite a bit in terms of potential trade targets or upgrades for the room, and he kind of got caught in a numbers crunch there. So is Skowronek going to come in and like cure the Steelers wide receiver questions opposite George Pickens? Like, no, I don't think that's even remotely in the cards. But I do think he can be a pretty useful player, and he should be somebody that, I think that they can maybe get elevated sooner than later. But you guys make sure to let me know what you guys thought of this edition, also this video in general, just in the comments below. Again, I really appreciate all the support for the channel. Excited to be back from vacation. Super excited about the 2024 season. I can't wait to continue to deliver, some more sicko content like this on some rather obscure players or plays that I find interesting on a weekly basis. So it's game week. Got the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. Busy week of content. I can't wait to bring you guys a lot of cool stuff. So y'all take it easy. Peace and love.